many falsely remembered Mandela dying in prison, sparking the strange phenomenon called the Mandela Effect.
People everywhere are experiencing this, and they don't understand it.
Ever been certain of a memory, then discovered it never existed? Not just a name wrong or a lyric off, but entire moments, objects, or facts missing from reality as you know it? You're not alone. From children's songs to iconic cartoon characters, thousands of people are reporting the same eerie disconnects. They're not just confused, they're convinced something has changed. One detail in particular has people questioning whether even our most joyful cultural memories are safe. The Mandela Effect isn't just weird anymore, it's unsettling. And what you're about to see might finally make you wonder, what else have we remembered wrong? Number 10. Mickey Mouse's tail and suspenders. For decades, Mickey Mouse has been one of the most recognizable characters in the world. From cartoons to theme parks, his image has been ingrained in pop culture since the late 1920s. But some people are now questioning their long-held memories of this beloved character. A growing number of individuals claim to clearly remember Mickey Mouse wearing suspenders and having a long, thin tail in his early appearances. These features seem obvious to them, so much so that they swear he even snapped his suspenders during one of his black-and-white Steamboat Willie cartoons. Yet, when they revisit the original footage, those moments are nowhere to be found. There are no suspenders, no tail, and no snapping gesture. Only Mickey's red shorts, with 2 white buttons, which remain unchanged in official archives. What makes this example particularly unsettling is the level of confidence with which people recall these missing details. The supposed suspenders are not a vague or minor detail. They are remembered as key parts of Mickey's outfit, present in both animated features and merchandise. Some theorists point out that the 2 white buttons on Mickey's shorts may have led people to assume suspenders were part of the design. However, others insist this does not explain the vivid memory of him pulling or snapping them on screen. As for the tail, a few cartoons do show Mickey with a tail in specific roles or costumes, but never in his standard design. This inconsistency has added fuel to the speculation that something has changed behind the scenes, or perhaps in reality itself. Further confusion comes from those who worked in costume departments at Disney theme parks. One insider claimed that Mickey did sometimes wear suspenders, but only with themed outfits, like construction gear, not his iconic look. Could people be blending these images together in their memory? Or is it possible that older footage and imagery were quietly edited over the years to simplify Mickey's appearance? There's no concrete evidence of such changes, but that hasn't stopped fans from scouring vintage merchandise and early reels in search of proof. At the core of this Mandela Effect is a simple but chilling idea. If even the most globally documented cartoon character can appear to shift over time, what else might be changing without our notice? Whether it's a case of collective memory failure or something stranger, the Mickey Mouse mystery continues to raise uncomfortable questions about how much we can trust our own recollections. If that seemed shocking, wait till you hear what people are remembering next. Number 9. Weird Al Yankovic's death. Weird Al Yankovic is still very much alive, but you wouldn't know it based on the number of people who vividly remember him dying decades ago. Some claim they first heard of his death in the late 1980s, with many specifically recalling news that he took his own life after record sales began to decline. These recollections aren't vague either. People say they remember mourning him, discussing his death at school, or even seeing tributes aired on television. When confronted with the fact that he is alive and well today, their shock is palpable. They aren't just surprised, they're convinced reality itself has somehow been altered. The situation became even more confusing in 2021, when a Facebook hoax falsely claimed that Weird Al had passed away. The post was widely shared and quickly gained over 1 million views, causing even more confusion. Strangely, many commenters weren't reacting to the false news as a current event, but rather as confirmation of something they thought had happened long ago. The post was later debunked, but by then, the idea had already embedded itself deeper into online forums and Mandela Effect discussions. Could this collective false memory have been influenced by jokes or parodies from pop culture? Consider a rather interesting theory, which is based on the animated sitcom King of the Hill. In one episode, Hank Hill was quoted as saying that Weird Al slayed himself after people stopped buying his records. While this is obviously meant as a joke, some viewers might have internalized this line as true, especially if they were young at the time or didn't catch the satire. That type of memory isn't really unheard of, and illustrates how having pop culture all too easily reinforces misinformation. However, the fact that so many individuals share such a detailed and specific false memory lays the groundwork for such questions about the interaction of memory, media, and collective belief. Others around have speculated in dark terms. Some fringe theorists claim Weird Al really has died, but somehow the event has been reversed or covered up for monetary reasons or otherwise by some unexplained phenomenon. Some even suggest that he was replaced by an impersonator. Obviously, there is no evidence for these theories, but the emotional certainty with which people recall his purported death is rather disturbing. Whether it's an example of the brain's tendency to fill in gaps or something stranger, the Weird Al Mandela Effect continues to baffle those who remember a version of history that simply doesn't exist today. Number 8. The Wizard of Oz changes. The Wizard of Oz is a film deeply rooted in pop culture and nostalgia, making it a common source of Mandela Effect discussions. Released in 1939, it has been watched by generations, many of whom claim to remember details that no longer appear in the film. One of the most cited examples involves the famous line spoken by Dorothy after arriving in Oz. While the official line is, "Toto, I've a feeling we're not in Kansas anymore," many people insist she originally said, "Toto, we're not in Kansas anymore." The difference is subtle, yet the sheer number of people who recall the misquoted version is notable and raises the question, how can so many people be wrong about such a widely known quote? But the line misquote is just the beginning. Several viewers have pointed out that the Tin Man appears different from what they remember. For example, many say they never noticed the metal shirt and tie he wears or the wrench he holds during the scene in the haunted forest. These additions feel strange and out of place, leading some to speculate that the scene had once contained an entirely different context, such as the deleted Jitterbug fight sequence, which may have featured the Tin Man using tools as weapons. Others go further, claiming that he used to have a hatch on his chest with a knob where his heart was meant to go, something that doesn't exist in any surviving version of the movie. The strangest claim of all is concerning a little mark on the Tin Man's forehead, located right between its eyes. There is even a person trying to note it as a metaphorical third eye, even though the movie makes no mention of this feature, let alone provide any context. This weird detail could also go to the question of whether it was something added afterwards, or whether people are seeing something they missed for decades. While there appears to be no formal proof that anything has been cut or reworked, the power of these peculiar memories across diverse spectators can hardly be summarily dismissed. However, what truly makes this effect creepily a Mandela effect is the fact that the very effect targets one of the most familiar of all childhood movies in terms of emotional ties. These are not just vague memories from a forgotten show. This is a classic that most people feel they have known personally. If something as iconic as The Wizard of Oz has passages that can suddenly become unsaid or altered in fine detail, then it gets us all thinking very unsettling things about how secure our shared memories may be, and indeed, the record of history itself. Number 7. The Song That Doesn't End. For many children growing up in the 1990s, the song that doesn't end was a familiar earworm, often sung endlessly on car rides, in classrooms, or while watching lamb chops play along. But in recent years, some adults have been stunned to learn that the song is not called what they remember. A growing number of people are adamant that the tune was originally titled "The Song That Never Ends," not "The Song That Doesn't End." The lyrics, which loop infinitely, begin with the line, "This is the song that doesn't end." And yet, somehow, large groups of people recall hearing and referring to it as "never ends" for years. This isn't just a case of a vague childhood misquote. Many claim they distinctly remember singing, "This is the song that never ends," and being corrected or teased about it as kids. Some say they owned VHS tapes or music books where the title was printed differently, and others point to YouTube videos that even today are mislabeled using the Never Ends version. The fact that the incorrect title still circulates widely online makes it harder for people to accept they were simply mistaken. Is it just a case of repetition overwriting the truth, or has something genuinely changed? Adding to the confusion is the recursive nature of the song itself. Designed to be infinite, the song's lyrics loop in a way that blurs the boundaries of beginning and end. This can easily affect memory recall. But others argue that such a small detail, swapping "doesn't" for "never," shouldn't be so hard to keep straight, especially when it's been repeated over and over. The notion that so many people independently remember the same wrong version has led to speculation that this might be a subtle example of the Mandela Effect in action. Skeptics point out that the lyric has always been "doesn't end," according to official sources like PBS transcripts and sheet music. Still, this hasn't stopped the theory from gaining traction online. After all, if a song about never ending can have its own name altered in our collective memory, what else are we misremembering? Is this simply a harmless case of childhood nostalgia gone fuzzy, or another small crack in the reliability of our shared reality? Either way, it's another unsettling example of how something as repetitive and simple as a children's song can still leave us questioning what we really know. Number 6. Gladiator Thumbs Up Down. For years, popular media and history books have reinforced a well-known image from ancient Rome. When a gladiator stood before the emperor after a battle, a thumbs up meant the fighter would be spared, while a thumbs down meant execution. Countless movies, TV shows, and books have depicted this exact scenario. But according to historical experts, this understanding is completely backward, and many people are struggling to accept it. Instead, the real historical gesture to spare a gladiator was a closed fist with the thumb tucked in, symbolizing a sheathed sword. A thumbs up, by contrast, represented an unsheathed sword, signaling death. The origin of the false version can likely be traced to an 1872 painting titled Police Verso by Jean-Léon Gérôme. The artwork depicts a Roman emperor giving a dramatic thumbs-down gesture, which was interpreted, and eventually accepted, as the signal to slay. The title of the painting was meant to suggest turned thumb, but this has been widely misinterpreted as thumbs down. This single artistic error may have shaped over a century of misunderstanding. Still, the question remains, how could such a widely accepted cultural symbol be so wrong, and for so long? Thus, this contradiction spurred online discussions of the Mandela Effect, with tons of people adamantly claiming that their memory is right and the memory of the gesture is wrong. They quote their school lessons, documentaries, or even specific scenes from a movie like Gladiator, 2000, which align with the now discredited perception. This is more than a mere error. It goes to the core of cultural knowledge. that for decades we all had totally wrong understandings of such a basic yet dramatic gesture is itself creepy. If the thumbs up can, after all these years, mean the very opposite of what we thought, what else might we have gotten wrong? The creepiness of this Mandela effect lies in its disruption of a deeply familiar symbol. The thumbs-up gesture is used around the world as a sign of approval, success, or agreement. But knowing that it used to carry the dark implication of a death sentence gives that symbol a very different interpretation. Is this perhaps just another instance of artistic influence rewriting history? Or was there a collective memory shift that somehow most people missed? While historians offer logical explanations, the widespread false memory continues to spark unease and leads some to wonder how many other facts we've accepted without question may not be accurate after all. Prepare yourself, because the next Mandela Effect changes everything you thought you knew. Number 5. Rudolph and the reindeer names. Rudolph the red-nosed reindeer is one of the most iconic figures in holiday culture, recognized for leading Santa's sleigh with his glowing nose. Yet a surprising number of people are now questioning the accuracy of the reindeer lineup itself. Many remember Rudolph being part of the original group of 8 reindeer named in the classic poem A Visit from St. Nicholas, commonly known as The Night Before Christmas. But historically, Rudolph wasn't introduced until over a century later, in 1939, through a story written for a Montgomery Ward department store campaign. This contradiction between personal memory and documented history has become a classic example of the Mandela Effect. Adding to the confusion are discrepancies in the reindeer names themselves. While most people recite the names as Dasher, Dancer, Prancer, Vixen, Comet, Cupid, Donner, Blitzen, the original 1823 poem actually listed Dunder and Bliksem, Dutch words for thunder and lightning. These names were later anglicized to the more familiar Donner and Blitzen. Despite historical records showing a clear progression of these changes, many people are adamant that Donner and Blitzen were always the names they learned growing up, with no recollection of any Dutch variation ever existing. The idea that beloved Christmas traditions have shifted over time without notice makes this phenomenon feel particularly unsettling. Some gentlemen have even gone so far as to assert that they used to know more than 9 reindeer in all, even that Santa once had 10 or 12. Yet they never name more than the common ones when asked. One source of confusion could be the character Olive, who was introduced in the late 1990s by the children's book Olive, the Other Reindeer. The song cried, "All of the other reindeer," and so they thought it was saying, Olive, the other reindeer, and thus counted her along with the others for Santa. The book and follow-up television special were meant to be funny, but the retentiveness of memory has probably been longer and deeper than expected. The Mandela effect around Rudolph and his companions goes deeper than the facts of history. It causes one to reflect on the reliability or not of childhood memories associated with very heartfelt traditions. Christmas lore gets passed from mouth to ear through stories, songs, and family activities. Anything different from the cherished memories looms large and elusive, be it through language, cultural reinterpretation, or possibly some more mysterious mechanism. People's recollections differ depending on an assumed constant holiday tradition. Little wonder, then, that this is disorientation. If even Santa's reindeer can't be trusted to stay the same, it begs the question, what else from our past might not be as we recall? Number 4. Napoleon's arm and height. Napoleon Bonaparte, one of the most influential military leaders in history, has long been the subject of historical myth and misconception. For generations, students around the world were taught that Napoleon was unusually short and often hid one hand inside his coat due to either an injury or deformity. These two details have been so widely repeated that they've become almost inseparable from his public image. Yet historians now argue that both claims are incorrect. Napoleon stood at around 5 feet 6 inches or 5 feet 7 inches, average height for a Frenchman of his era, and he had no documented physical disability. The realization that both of these well-known facts are wrong has sparked confusion, and for some, a belief that history itself has somehow changed. The idea that Napoleon was missing a hand is especially persistent. Many recall being taught this in school or hearing it as a trivia fact. They cite his famously tucked-in pose as visual proof. But historical records, portraits, and even autopsy reports confirm that he had both hands. The tucked hand pose was simply a common gesture of the time, seen in portraits of other figures to convey dignity and composure. Still, some people remain unconvinced. Could this be another example of collective false memory? Or was there once a widely shared version of history that has since been overwritten? Some theorists link the misconception to old propaganda and caricatures. British cartoonists often mocked Napoleon as being both short and physically awkward, exaggerating his features for comedic effect. Over time, these illustrations may have become conflated with reality. But even if the origin of the myth is explainable, it doesn't account for how many people claim to remember learning something different in school, details that don't appear in textbooks today. This perceived revision of historical truth fuels the theory that we are experiencing something more than just evolving scholarship. What makes the Napoleon Mandela Effect especially eerie is the way it undermines our trust in historical consistency. If something as basic as a world leader's height or physical condition can be widely misremembered, how much faith can we place in what we know about history? Was this always a case of mistaken assumptions passed through generations, or is this an example of reality subtly changing while our memories stubbornly resist? Either way, the case of Napoleon's non-existent missing hand and wrongly remembered short stature leaves behind an unsettling sense that even the past is no longer fixed. Number 3. Bravehearts' historical inaccuracy. Mel Gibson's 1995 film Braveheart was a box office success and left a lasting impact on viewers around the world. It portrayed the story of Scottish warrior William Wallace, igniting patriotic emotions and stirring interest in Scottish history. But over the years, historians and even casual viewers have begun to notice glaring inaccuracies that go beyond artistic license. The problem isn't just that the movie got things wrong, it's that many people believed it was historically accurate for decades. From the kilts to the timeline to the politics, nearly every major element of the film has been challenged or debunked, yet the version of history told by Braveheart still lingers in people's minds. One of the most misleading aspects involves the use of kilts and face paint. In the film, Wallace and his followers wear traditional Scottish garb and paint their faces blue before battle. But kilts didn't appear until centuries after Wallace's time, and the blue woad face paint was used by ancient Picts, not medieval Scots. Despite this, many people now associate these visual elements with real Scottish history, thanks in large part to the film's iconic scenes. When presented with factual evidence, some fans even express disbelief, certain they remember learning about Wallace's blue face paint and kilts in school. Beyond the inaccuracies, the romantic aspect regarding Princess Isabella in the entire film is fictional. She was merely a child in France when Wallace was executed and had never met him. The film also focuses on Wallace as the main person responsible for Scotland's struggle for independence, minimizing the role of Robert the Bruce, who technically was the leader who won independence for Scotland. Such changes have created public opinion strongly enough that it has become part of classroom discussions and educational media, despite having no factual basis. Could this mass misremembering be attributed to the influence of cinema, or is there something much more deeply entrenched? What gives this particular Mandela effect a creepier aura is its grave implication for national identity and historical consciousness. Braveheart didn't just distort facts, it rewrote them with an emotional validation and cultural sense. It's this mingling of fiction with memory that further blurs the boundaries separating entertainment from discourse. What others are there that have unwittingly influenced our worldview? If one big film can supplant history in the minds of so many, the greater questions are we remembering the past, or simply remembering the version of it we were shown? And once that version takes hold, can it ever truly be corrected? Number 2. The Grinch movie title. For years, many people have confidently referred to the classic Christmas movie as The Grinch Who Stole Christmas. It's the title that rolls off the tongue and is often quoted in holiday conversations, parodies, and even merchandise. But when searching for the film, particularly the live-action 2000 version starring Jim Carrey, viewers are often surprised to discover that the official title is actually How the Grinch Stole Christmas. This slight but crucial difference has left many unsettled, convinced they remember it differently. It's not just a matter of misremembering a line. Many claim they saw posters, DVD covers, and TV listings with the alternate title. What makes this Mandela effect even more confusing is that The Grinch Who Stole Christmas isn't completely fabricated. It's commonly used in informal speech and even appears in some unofficial content. However, Dr. Seuss's original 1957 book and all official adaptations, including the animated 1966 special and the Jim Carrey film, have consistently used the title How the Grinch Stole Christmas. Despite this, people swear that the shorter version is what they grew up with, and some even claim to remember teachers or broadcasters referring to it that way. Could widespread use of the simplified title have overwritten the original in people's minds? A blending effect is also possible in memory, and this phenomenon occurs when similar and different phrases are heard in different holiday specials. Titles such as The Cat in the Hat, A Charlie Brown Christmas, or The Santa Claus all have different naming conventions from one another. Therefore, it is plausible that the Grinch title was mentally streamlined to fit the format they were more used to. But the intensity of this belief has urged a certain person to dig through their old VHS tapes and promotional materials, trying to hunt down some evidence of the so-called wrong title being used officially. Until now, no credible source has come across such proof, but the conviction hasn't faded at all. Unequivocally, this Mandela effect stands in terrifying contrast to almost everything. The Grinch story gets deep-seated in holiday culture and is retold throughout the ages. To realize that the title of a tale so familiar to you in these times may not be that of what many of you clearly remember harbors a jarring dislocation. If we can't trust recollection about something as culturally repeated and cherished as a Christmas movie title, what else? Misremembered or, worse, quietly changed without notice? Whether this is just an example of language simplification or something more elusive, the confusion surrounding the Grinch title continues to fuel questions about the stability of shared memory. Are you ready? The last one could leave you questioning your own memories. Number 1. Don't Worry, Be Happy by Bob Marley. Of all the Mandela Effect examples, the case of Don't Worry, Be Happy being attributed to Bob Marley is one of the most widespread and, strangely, the least creepy. The cheerful reggae-style anthem is often assumed to be a Marley track, despite being recorded and released by Bobby McFerrin in 1988. Countless people claim they grew up hearing it on Bob Marley playlists, seeing it labeled under his name on burned CDs, or even watching videos on YouTube where the song was misattributed to Marley. To this day, many are shocked to discover that the iconic feel-good tune has no connection to the Jamaican legend. What's interesting is how deeply this misconception has embedded itself in pop culture. The confusion is understandable to a degree. McFerrin's vocal tone, Caribbean-influenced style, and minimalist arrangement bear a resemblance to Marley's more laid-back tracks. Add to that Marley's global popularity and the genre overlap, and it's easy to see how casual listeners might conflate the two. But what makes this more than just a simple error is the level of certainty with which people insist Marley performed it. Some recall hearing radio DJs announce the song as his, while others swear they saw it credited to him in official places, though no such evidence exists. Confusion, indeed, has thrived in the wake of search engines and streaming platforms. By typing "Don't worry, be happy" into programs like LimeWire, Napster, and early YouTube, people often found the artist listed as Bob Marley. The mislabeling in digital music libraries, especially in the early aughts, only served to cement the false attribution further. While this might seem like a technical faux pas of the mundane variety, it contributed to an alteration in collective memory whose imprint persists to this day. Could it be that user error mingling with genre association was somehow powerful enough to complete a historical rewrite? Not one to evoke the traditional haunting of other entries in this Mandela roster. This one, nonetheless, raises serious questions about how fast misinformation could worm itself into memory. If one very popular, well-catalogued hit like McFerrin's could be freely and confidently attributed to someone else, then what is there to say about the cultural knowledge we absorb and repeat? A trivial mistake, perhaps, but one that shows how easily swayed the collective memory can be, whether through human error, digital misinformation, or simply genre confusion. The persistence of this false memory is a lighthearted but telling glimpse into how we remember what we think we know. It reveals the subtle ways pop culture shapes our assumptions, blurring the line between recognition and recall. In an age where repetition often trumps accuracy, even the smallest slip can take on a life of its own. If that twisted your sense of reality, just wait. There's more where that came from. Hit that like button if any of these moments made you second-guess your memory. Comment below with the Mandela Effect that still haunts you. Don't forget to subscribe for more reality-bending videos just like this. And before you go, click on the next video showing on your screen. It might just prove you're not the only one who remembers things differently.